Okay, we are now looking at day one. So, like before, Gil, can I ask you to sing it as you would if you were singing it in the synagogue, and
Yes.
that would be
This is so the second day. So you were doing the first day. So the first day is that's from verse 3 to the end of verse 5.
right.
ויאמר אלוהים יהי אור ויהי אור וירא אלוהים את האור כי טוב ויבדל אלוהים בין האור ובין החושך ויקרא אלוהים לאור יום ולחושך קרא לילה ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום אחד.
Okay.
So this is the first day, and when we see that the first day is very much about light. It's about light and darkness, and we see that the very first thing that God created that was light. He created it by saying the word or. Okay, God said, "Let there be light." Yehi or, and then light appeared.
Mm.
Light is our ability, gives us the ability to see. Light is, I mean, light is not anything tangible, right? You can't touch light, right? You cannot quite measure the amount of light. You can describe it with words. You can't weigh it. You know, it's not anything physical that
So
you
when
can.
so when God said, "Let there be light," is
Mhm.
this is there? Where does this light come from? I mean, we're not talking about what we think of as light is when we wake up in the morning and the sun is finally come up and then we have light.
Right.
So what is this?
Right. On a physical, I mean, and light was created before the sun was created. I mean, light doesn't so light doesn't really come from the sun. I mean, when we look at creation, I mean, we could have expected that first the sun will be created and then light will be created, right? And light will inevitably come from the sun. But we see that that's not the case. Okay, light stands on its own, and light, the way we understand it, light comes from him. It's something that he created, but of course, I mean, if we look at light as the ability to see, something that enables us to see, and God enables us, God is the one who enables us to see and to live and to act. I mean, he gives us everything that we have in this life. It's all coming from him. So it inevitably we say that that light is a representation of his existence. I wouldn't say of what he is or his presence or anything like that. I'm being very careful and really trying to pick my words here, not to say something that could be misinterpreted.
Right.
Um, but light is definitely a representation of God's substance. Let's put it this way. And because God is infinite, and when we talk about infinite light, that's something that we cannot exist in. I mean, if the light that we are experiencing, let's say when the sun rises in the morning, if that light is the one that we're talking about here in creation, then clearly then clearly we would not be able to exist in it. Because if light is it's a representation of God's substance, and he is infinite, and we are finite beings, standing in the light would mean it's like walking into a nuclear plant. You can't survive that. Okay, well, we are not fit for that. So the way we understand it, we see that God, he created light, and then he separated light from the darkness. Okay, so the two are separated, and we can also talk about it, the meaning of that spiritually. But of course, when we think about his light, we see his light, I mean, light that we are experiencing now, is something that God made sure will be filtered, so that we will be able to have benefit from it. I
Mm.
mean, if we go back to the first day of creation and experience that kind of light, there is no option for us to exist in it. because we are finite beings. So what we find here is a system in which God, he diminished himself, he filters himself, he minimized himself in order for that light to give us, in order for us to have benefit of that light. Okay, that's what we're looking here. So we see God, we see the infinite minimizing himself, diminishing himself, or filtering himself into the finite, in order for the finite to be able to recognize him and go after him. But when we go after God, and when we want to see, when we want to understand, and to really have that light in its full form, we are basically aiming towards the infinite. So it kind of means that we are being put on a track of reaching something, which, as long as we live, we won't be able to reach it. But we are still on a track that must take us to that point. You see, it's a non. I mean, we need to always be on the path of getting to that light, but we know that we will never be able to do that as long as we are in these finite bodies.
Right.
But it doesn't mean we should stop trying. Okay, we must always continue and always like strive to get to that point of being united with that light. Yet we know that as long as we live in this body, in this world, we won't be able to reach it. And it's just a little, when we read about light, it's in Judaism. I mean, it's there are wide big discussions about what light is on a spiritual level,
Yes.
and how do we let it in when we progress and develop on the scale of spirituality. It means that we are becoming better vessels to hold the light, to
Right.
hold that light. So the more we progress, the more we develop spiritually, we begin to experience more of that infinite light.
Right.
And so we're moving on this scale, cutting through those filters that he created, so that we will be able to have benefit in the end from that infinite light.
Well, when it says that God divided the light from the darkness, so does that mean that when he said let there be light,
Mhm.
that then there was so much light that the darkness in a sense disappeared?
No, it didn't disappear. They were all mixed. Okay, think
Yes.
about it. Think
It's
about a drawing. Okay, of, let's
like
say you
eaten up almost by the light. Still
have.
there.
It was all one mixture. It was a mixture of light and darkness together,
All
and
right.
then separated them. And of course, when we talk about light and darkness, we talk about it in the context of good and evil.
All right.
And because God separated light from the darkness, he separated good from evil. And maybe this could lead us to understand the words in the Psalms, saying that Ohave Adonai, the lovers of the Lord, those who love the Lord,
Mm,
sin ura, must hate evil. You
mm,
can't love the Lord and be in peace with evil,
right.
and not hate evil. If you love the Lord, that inevitably entails that you hate evil, because God separated light from darkness, and
Mm,
they can't exist inside one another.
awesome. Okay, great. Thank you, Gil.
Thank you.
That's day one, and
Thank
we'll
you.
come back next time.
See you tomorrow in day two.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.